The rain was cold and heavy, falling from a dark purple sky. Small drops hit the metal streets of the alien city, making soft sounds everywhere. In the middle of that empty street stood a little alien girl. She was very small, thin, and shaking from the cold, but what made her different was not her size. It was her back. There were no wings in her world. Every child was born with wings. Big wings, small wings, bright wings, or dark wings. But wings meant one thing. You belonged, and she did not. The other alien children stood far away under glowing lights. They were watching her, whispering and laughing. "Look at her," one of them said. "She is broken," another replied. The girl lowered her head. She had heard those words many times before. Broken, useless, different. She tried to ignore them. But the pain stayed inside her heart. A strong wind blew through the street. Her thin clothes could not protect her. She wrapped her arms around herself, trying to stay warm, but it was not enough. She looked up at the sky. Ships were flying high. Above, glowing like stars, every ship carried people with wings. People who had a place in this world. Her eyes slowly filled with tears. But she did not cry loudly. She had learned long ago. No one would come. Suddenly, a loud sound broke the silence. A deep rumble came from above, much louder than the other ships. The children stopped laughing. Everyone looked up. A large human ship appeared in the sky. It was different from alien ships, rough, strong, and powerful. Fear spread quickly. Humans. Someone whispered. The alien children stepped back. Some ran away. Humans were known across the galaxy, strong, dangerous, and unpredictable. The ship slowly landed on the street, its engines glowing bright. The little girl did not run. She was too tired, too cold, too alone. The ship door opened with a loud sound. Steam came out as it touched the ground. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a man walked out. He was tall, wearing a dark suit. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. He looked around the empty street. Then his eyes stopped on the girl. The two stared at each other. The girl felt something strange, not fear, but confusion. Why was he looking at her like that? Not like the others, not with hate, not with laughter. The man slowly walked closer, step by step. The sound of his boots echoed in the quiet street. The girl took a small step back, her heart beating fast. Humans were dangerous. That is what everyone said, but he did not look dangerous. He stopped a few steps away from her, close enough to see her clearly. His eyes moved to her back, to the place where wings should be. He stayed silent for a moment. The girl could not hold it anymore. In a soft, shaking voice, she spoke. "Why are you looking at me?" The man did not answer right away. Instead, he slowly bent down to her level, so he would not look so big and scary. Then he spoke. His voice was calm and warm. I'm trying to understand." The girl looked confused. "Understand what?" she asked. He gave a small smile. "Why everyone else walked away from you." The girl's eyes widened. No one had ever said something like that before. She looked down again. "Because I am not like them," she whispered. There was a short silence, only the sound of rain between them. Then the man said something that changed everything. "Good." The girl looked up quickly. "What?" He looked straight into her eyes. "Because being different is not a weakness." The girl's heart started beating faster. But this time, it felt different. Not fear, not pain, something new, hope far away. The other aliens were still watching, confused and worried. Why was a human talking to her? Why was he not leaving? The man slowly stood up, but his eyes never left the girl. Then he said one final line. "If you trust me, I can help you fly." The world around her felt silent. Fly. A word she had only dreamed about. Her lips trembled as she spoke. "But I don't have wings." The man gave a calm, confident smile. "Then we will build them." The rain continued to fall, but for the first time in her life, the girl did not feel cold. Because something had just begun. Something that would change not only her life, but the entire galaxy. And somewhere deep inside, a question was born. What if the weakest child becomes the strongest of them all? The next morning, the rain had stopped, but the cold feeling in the city was still there. The little alien girl stood beside the human ship. She looked smaller in the bright light. People had started to gather. Aliens from nearby streets, watching from a safe distance. They were not curious, they were judging. She stayed with the human, one said. That proves she is not one of us, another replied. The girl heard every word, even when they tried to whisper. Her hands tightened slowly, but she said nothing. The human stood near her, calm and silent, watching everything carefully. He understood what was happening. This was not just fear, this was rejection. A group of alien elders stepped forward. They wore long robes and had large glowing wings. Their leader looked at the girl first, then at the human. You should not be here, the elder said. The human did not move. I am not here for trouble, he replied calmly. The elder's eyes became narrow. Then take your ship and leave. The girl looked down. She already knew what was coming. The elder raised a hand and pointed at her. And take this one with you. A silence fell over the crowd. The girl's heart felt heavy. Even though she expected it, it still hurt. She was never one of us, another elder said. No wings, no future. The human looked at the girl. He could see the pain in her eyes. Then he looked back at the elders. She is a child, he said. She deserves a chance. The crowd reacted immediately, murmurs and anger spreading fast. A chance for what? Someone shouted, she cannot fly. She cannot survive. She cannot survive. The words hit her like stones. The girl closed her eyes for a moment, trying to stay strong. The human stepped slightly in front of her, not blocking her, but protecting her. Strength is not only in wings, he said. The elder shook his head slowly. You do not understand our world. Human. Then explain it to me, the human replied. The elder spoke in a cold voice. In our world, wings are life. They are freedom, power, and purpose. He paused for a moment. A child without wings is a burden. The girl felt something break inside her. She had heard these words before, but today they felt final. The human stayed silent for a few seconds, thinking carefully. Then he asked a simple question. What if you are wrong? The crowd became quiet again. The elder frowned. We are never wrong about our own kind. The human looked at the girl again. She was staring at the ground, her eyes empty. He turned back to the elders. Then you have already decided her future, yes? The elder replied without hesitation. And what is that future? The human asked. The elder answered coldly. She will be sent away. The girl's body froze. Sent away, that meant one thing. Exile, no home, no family, no return. The crowd stepped back slightly. As if she was already gone, the girl slowly looked up, her eyes filled with quiet fear. Where will I go? She whispered. No one answered her. The silence was louder than any words. The human's expression changed, not anger, but decision. He stepped forward. She will not be sent anywhere, he said firmly. The elder looked at him sharply. This is not your decision, human. The human crossed his arms. It is now. The tension in the air grew heavy. The alien guards moved closer, their wings spreading wide. The girl stepped back in fear. But the human did not move. If you force her out, he continued, then I will take her with me. The crowd gasped softly. A human raising her? Someone said, that is madness, another whispered. The elder looked at him for a long moment, then finally spoke. Do what you want. He turned away slowly. But remember this. She will never belong anywhere. Those words stayed in the air, cold and sharp. The crowd began to leave, one by one. No one looked at the girl anymore. It was like she had already disappeared. The street became empty again. The girl stood still, her body shaking slightly, not from the cold, but from everything she had just lost. The human looked down at her. You heard them, she said quietly. Yes. He replied. I don't belong anywhere, she continued. The human shook his head slowly. That is not true. The girl looked at him, her eyes searching for something. Then where do I belong? She asked. The human gave a small, calm smile. With me. The girl stared at him, not fully understanding, but for the first time, she was not completely alone and far away in the sky. The future was already changing because one human had made a choice, and that choice would soon challenge an entire galaxy. The street was quiet again. The crowd was gone. The voices that once judged her had disappeared, but their words were still inside her mind, cold and heavy. The little alien girl stood near the human, not too close, not too far, like she was unsure where she was allowed to stand. The human looked at his ship, then back at her. He had already made his choice, but he knew she had not. He slowly knelt down in front of her again, keeping his voice soft and calm. "What is your name?" he asked. The girl hesitated for a moment. No one had asked her that in a long time. "Era," she said quietly. The human nodded. "Era," he repeated. As if the name mattered, she looked at him, surprised. Most people said her name like it meant nothing, but he did not. "My name is Elias," he said. Era looked confused. She had never spoken to a human before. "You are not scared of me?" she asked softly. Elias gave a small smile. "Should I be?" Era shook her head quickly. "No. I mean, others are." Elias stood up slowly, then looked around the empty street. "They are scared of what they don't understand," he said. Era looked down again. "They understand me," she whispered. "They know I am useless." Elias's expression became serious. "No," he said firmly. "They decided that, without even trying to know you." Era did not reply, because deep inside, she still believed them. Elias walked toward his ship, then stopped at the entrance. He turned back and looked at her. "Come," he said simply. Era froze. Her eyes moved from the ship back to him. "You want me to go with you?" "Yes," Elias replied. Her heart started beating faster. "Why?" she asked. Elias paused for a moment, thinking carefully. Then he gave a simple answer. "Because you deserve more than this." Era looked at the ground. Her thoughts were fighting inside her mind. This place had only given her pain, but it was still her home, or at least it used to be. "What if I slow you down?" she asked. "What if I become a problem?" Elias shook his head. "You are not a problem, but I cannot fly," she said quickly. Elias stepped closer. "Then we will find another way." Era looked at him again, trying to understand if he was telling the truth. "Humans don't help aliens," she said quietly. Elias gave a small smile. "Maybe they just haven't met the right one yet." There was a long silence between them. The wind moved gently through the empty street. Era slowly took one step forward, then another. She stopped again, still unsure. "If I go with you, I cannot come back," she said. Elias nodded. "I know." She looked behind her, at the city that had rejected her. No one was there, no one waiting, no one caring. Her eyes slowly returned to Elias. Then she asked one final question. "Will you leave me too?" Elias's face became serious. "No," he said, not loud, not dramatic, but strong and certain. Era stared at him, trying to feel if he was telling the truth. And for the first time, she believed someone. Slowly, she walked toward the ship. Her small steps echoed softly. Elias stepped aside, letting her enter first. She paused at the entrance. The inside of the ship was dark but warm, very different from the cold streets outside. She looked back one last time, not at the people, but at her past. Then she stepped inside. Elias followed behind her. The door of the ship closed with a deep sound. And just like that, her old life ended, inside the ship. Era looked around carefully. Everything felt strange. Metal walls, soft lights, quiet machines. "This is your home?" she asked. "For now," Elias replied. Era touched the wall gently. It felt solid and safe. She had never been inside something like this before. Elias walked toward a control panel, pressing a few buttons. The ship slowly started to move. A low Hum filled the air. Aira felt it and held onto a nearby surface. "Are we leaving?" she asked. "Yes," Elias said. The ship lifted off the ground, rising slowly into the sky. Aira's eyes widened. She moved toward a small window. The city became smaller and smaller. The place that once felt like everything now looked so far away. She placed her hand on the glass. Not crying, not smiling, just watching. Elias walked up beside her. "You are quiet," he said. Aira nodded slightly. "I don't know what happens next," she admitted. Elias looked out at the stars. "Neither do I," he said honestly. Aira looked at him, surprised. "You don't?" Elias shook his head. "But I do know one thing." Ar waited. "You are not going to stay the same," he said. Her eyes slowly widened. "What do you mean?" Elias looked at her, calm and confident. "I mean, this is just the beginning, outside." The window, the stars stretched across the sky, infinite and full of possibilities. And somewhere in that endless space, a new future was waiting, not just for Aira, but for everyone who once believed that she could never fly. The ship moved quietly through deep space. Stars passed by like small lights in the darkness. Inside, Aira sat near the window, watching everything with wide eyes. She had never left her planet before. Everything felt new. Everything felt unknown. Elias worked in another part of the ship. Surrounded by tools, wires, and glowing screens, he moved with focus, like he was building something important. Aira watched him from a distance. She was curious, but also a little afraid to ask. After some time, she slowly walked closer, her steps soft and careful. "What are you doing?" she asked quietly. Elias looked up, then smiled slightly. "Working on something," he replied. Aira tilted her head. "For what?" Elias paused for a moment, then answered simply, "For you." Aira's eyes widened. "For me?" Elias nodded, but did not explain more. That made her even more curious. Days passed on the ship. Time felt different in space, slow, but also fast. Aira started to explore more. She walked through small rooms, touched strange machines, watched stars every night. But one thing did not change: the empty space on her back. Sometimes she would stand in front of a metal wall. Looking at her reflection, she would imagine wings there, big and strong. Then she would blink, and the image would disappear one day. Elias called her, "Aira." She quickly walked toward him. "Yes?" He pointed toward an open space inside the ship. "Stand there," he said. Aira looked confused, but did what he asked. "Now move," Elias added. "Move." "How?" "Run, jump, try to balance," he said. Aira hesitated. "I can't fly." She said softly, "I know," Elias replied, "but you can still move." Aira slowly started to run. Her steps were small at first. Then she tried to jump, but she fell quickly. She hit the ground lightly, not hurt, but embarrassed. "I told you," she said. "I am not like the others." Elias walked closer. "I don't want you to be like the others," he said. Aira looked up at him, surprised. "Then what do you want?" Elias gave a calm answer. "I want you to be stronger than them." Aira stayed silent. She did not understand how that was possible. "Again," Elias said. Aira looked unsure. "Again," he repeated. This time, she stood up faster. She ran again, jumped again, fell again. But she did not stop. Each time she stood up quicker. Each time she tried harder. Days turned into more days. Aira kept training. Her body became stronger. Her balance improved. Her fear slowly became smaller, but still. She could not fly one night. She sat alone again, looking at the stars. Her face was calm, but her eyes showed doubt. Elias walked in quietly. "You are thinking too much," he said. Aira did not turn. "I am trying." "But nothing changes," she sighed. Elias stood beside her. "Something is changing," he replied. Aira shook her head slightly. "I still don't have wings." Elias looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, "Come with me." Aira followed him through a narrow hallway. They reached a closed room, a room she had never seen before. Elias stopped at the door. Are you ready? He asked. Era felt her heart beat faster. For what? Elias did not answer. He opened the door slowly. Light filled the room. Era stepped inside, and then she froze. In the center of the room, there was something shining, something large, something powerful, a pair of wings, but not like alien wings. These were made of metal and light. With smooth edges and glowing lines, they looked strong and alive at the same time. Ara slowly walked closer, her eyes filled with shock. What is this? She whispered. Elias stepped beside her. These are yours, he said. Ara stepped back slightly. No, that's not possible, she said quickly. Elias stayed calm. It is. Ara looked at her back, then back at the wings. I don't have wings, she said again. Elias nodded. I know. Then how? She asked. Elias looked directly at her. We build them. The room felt silent. Era's mind was racing. She looked at the wings again, then at Elias. Will they work? She asked softly. Elias did not answer immediately. Instead, he gave an honest reply. I don't know. Era's heart dropped for a second. Then Elias added, but I will do everything to make sure they do. Ira took a deep breath. Fear and hope mixed inside her. For the first time, flying did not feel like a dream. It felt possible. She looked at the wings one more time, and a single question filled her mind. What if this changes everything? Or what if it all fails? The room was quiet. Only the soft hum of machines filled the air. Aura stood in the center, looking at the metal wings in front of her. They were shining softly, lines of light moving across them like energy. She felt small standing next to them, but also something else. Hope. Elias walked around the wings, checking every part carefully. Come here, he said calmly. Aram moved slowly, her steps careful. Turn around, Elias added. She hesitated for a moment, then turned her back toward him. Her heart was beating fast. Elias gently lifted the wings. They were lighter than they looked. Ara felt something cold touch her back. She closed her eyes tightly. Relax, Elias said softly. She tried, but fear was still there. What if it hurts? She asked. It won't, Elias replied. I made sure of that. Slowly, he connected the wings to her body. Small lights flashed as the system activated. Era gasped slightly. She felt something new, like energy moving through her back. What is this feeling? She whispered. Elias stepped back, watching closely. That means they are working, he said. Era slowly opened her eyes. Try to move them, Elias said. Era stood still for a second. I don't know how, she replied. Just think about it, Elias said. Era focused. She imagined wings moving. At first, nothing happened. Then suddenly, the metal wings moved slightly. Era's eyes widened. They moved, she said in shock. Elias smiled slightly. Again, he said. This time, Ara focused harder. The wings opened slowly, spreading wide behind her. Light reflected across the room. Arira took a deep breath. I can feel them, she said softly. Elias nodded. They are part of you now. Era moved them again, this time with more control. The wings responded faster. Her fear slowly started to turn into excitement. Can I fly now? She asked. Elias paused for a moment. Not yet, he said. Era's excitement dropped slightly. You need to learn first, he added. Days of training began again. But this time, everything was different. Era practiced moving. Her wings opening, closing, balancing. At first, she fell many times. The wings felt heavy and strange, but she did not give up. Each day, she improved. She learned how to stand steady, how to control her movements, how to trust the wings. Elias watched everything, sometimes guiding her, sometimes letting her learn alone. You are getting stronger, he said one day. Ara looked at her wings. I am still scared, she admitted. That is normal, Elias replied. Ara looked at him. What if I fall? Elias walked closer. Then you stand up again, he said calmly. Ira nodded slowly. Finally the day came. Elias opened a large door of the ship. The outside air rushed in. Below them was a wide open land. Empty and safe, Ara stood at the edge. Looking down, her hands were shaking slightly. "This is it," Elias said. Ara did not move. Her mind was full of fear. "What if I fail?" she whispered. Elias stood beside her. "What if you don't?" He replied. Ara took a deep breath. She looked at the sky, endless and free. Then she stepped forward. Her feet reached the edge. She closed her eyes for a second. Then she jumped. For a moment, nothing happened. She started to fall. The ground rushed toward her. Fear filled her chest. "I can't," she tried to say. Then suddenly, the wings opened wide. A powerful force pushed against the air. Her fall slowed, then stopped. Ara's eyes opened wide. She was not falling anymore. She was floating. Then slowly she began to rise higher and higher. The wind moved around her. Her wings moved naturally, like they had always been there. I am flying," she whispered, her voice filled with disbelief. Above, Elias watched from the ship, a small smile on his face. Ara moved through the sky. At first slowly, then faster she turned. She glided. The sky was no longer something far away. It was hers. A laugh escaped her. Light and free. For the first time in her life she was not broken. She was not weak. She was flying far away. Unknown ships began to notice. Sensors picking up something unusual. A wingless alien. Flying, our Ara rose higher into the sky, her wings shining in the light, and at that moment, the galaxy began to change, because the girl who could never fly had just touched the sky. Ara flew high above the open land. The wind moved around her wings, soft but powerful. She moved with more confidence now. Turning, rising, and gliding through the sky. Below her, the world looked small, far away from the pain she once knew. Inside the ship, Elias watched quietly, his eyes focused on the screens. Different signals were appearing. Lights blinking one after another. He already knew what it meant. "They have seen you," he said softly. High above, small ships appeared in the distance, watching, scanning, observing. Ara noticed them. Her movements slowed slightly. "Elias?" she said through the communicator. "Yes, I see them," he replied calmly. "Are they dangerous?" she asked. Elias paused for a moment. "Not yet," he said. The ships did not attack. They stayed far away. But they were watching carefully, recording everything. Ara's wings moved slowly as she stayed in the air. "Why are they just watching?" she asked. "Because they don't understand what they are seeing," Elias replied. Inside one of the distant ships, alien officers stared at their screens. "That is not possible," one said. "She has no natural wings," another replied. Then, "How is she flying?" No one had the answer. Back in the sky, Ara felt something change, not in her wings, but in the way others looked at her. For the first time, they were not laughing. They were confused, curious, even afraid. Ara slowly flew back toward the human ship, landing carefully near the open door. Her feet touched the ground. She stood still for a moment, then looked at Elias. "They were watching me," she said. Elias nodded. "And they will tell others," he added. Ara looked down slightly. "Is that bad?" Elias thought for a moment. "It depends," he said. "On what?" she asked. "On how they react," he replied. Days passed again, but this time the silence of space was different. More ships appeared, staying far, watching from a distance. Messages started spreading across systems. A wingless alien child flying. Some called it a miracle, some called it a mistake, some called it dangerous. Ara began to notice the change. Whenever she flew, there were always eyes on her. She was no longer invisible, she was seen. One day, Elias received a signal, a message from an alien council. He opened it slowly. Ara stood beside him, watching. A figure appeared on the screen, tall, calm, and serious. "You are the human responsible," the figure said. Elias crossed his arms. Yes, he replied. The figure's eyes moved slightly. You have changed something that should not be changed. Ira felt her chest tighten. Elias stayed calm. I gave her a chance, he said. The figure shook its head. You gave her power. A silence filled the room. Then the figure continued. Power creates imbalance. Ira stepped forward slightly. I did not ask for power, she said softly. The figure looked at her. But you have it now. Ira stayed silent. Elias stepped in. She earned it, he said. The figure paused. Or you forced it. Elias did not reply immediately. Then he said, I showed her a different path. The figure's expression became colder. Others will follow. Good, Elias replied. The figure's eyes narrowed. You are changing our order, Elias gave a calm answer. Maybe your order needed to change. The signal ended suddenly. The room became quiet again. Ira looked at Elias. Are they going to stop us? She asked. Elias looked at the stars outside. Some will try, he said. Ira looked at her wings. They were no longer just something new. They were something important, something powerful. I don't want to hurt anyone, she said. Elias turned toward her. Then don't, he replied. Ira looked confused. What if they try to hurt me? Elias's voice stayed calm. Then you protect yourself. Ira nodded slowly. For the first time she understood something. This was not just about flying anymore. This was about change, about proving something, not just to others, but to herself. Later that day, Ira flew again, but this time she did not fly to escape. She flew to be seen. Ships followed her from a distance, recording, watching, learning, some in wonder. Her wings shined brightly in the light of a distant star, and across the galaxy, one truth began to spread. The child they once rejected was no longer weak. She was something new, something they could not control, and that scared them more than anything, because the future was no longer certain. And it all started with one human who refused to walk away. The stars were calm, but the galaxy was not. News about Ira had spread everywhere, from small planets to powerful systems. Some called her a miracle, some called her a threat, but no one ignored her anymore. Inside the human ship, Ira stood quietly, looking at her reflection again. But this time, it was different. She no longer imagined wings. They were real, strong, shining behind her. Still, something felt incomplete. Elias walked into the room, not saying anything at first. You are thinking again, he said calmly. Ira nodded slightly. I can fly now, she said, but I still feel different. Elias stepped closer. You are different, he replied. Ira looked at him. Will I ever belong somewhere? She asked. Elias did not answer right away. Then he said, maybe you are not meant to belong. Ira frowned slightly. Then what am I meant to do? Elias gave a small smile. Lead. Ira stayed silent. The word felt heavy. I am just a child, she said. Elias shook his head. You are more than that now. Before she could reply, a signal came through the ship. Another message. But this time it was not a warning, it was a request. A group of alien worlds wanted to see her, to understand her, to hear her story. Ira looked unsure. Why me? She asked. Elias looked at her wings. Because you changed something, he said. After a long silence, Ira her choice. I will go, she said. The ship traveled across space, moving toward a large gathering point, a place where many alien leaders had come together. When they arrived, thousands of eyes were waiting. Ships surrounded the area, watching closely. Ira stood at the edge of the ship's door. Her heart was beating fast. Are you ready? Elias asked. Ira took a deep breath. No, she said honestly. Then she stepped forward anyway. The door opened, light filled the space, and Ira walked out. At first, there was silence, no whispers, no laughter. Only watching. She stepped onto the platform, her wings folded behind her, calm and steady. She looked at the crowd. So many faces, so many eyes. The same kind of eyes that once rejected her, but now they were different. They were listening. Era took another step forward. Her voice was soft at first. "I was born without wings," she said. The crowd stayed silent. "I was told I was weak." Her voice became stronger. "I was left behind." Some in the crowd lowered their eyes. Era continued. "I believed them." She paused for a moment, then looked back slightly, toward the ship where Elias stood. Then she looked forward again. "Until someone showed me I was wrong." The crowd listened carefully. Era opened her wings slowly. They spread wide, shining in the light. A soft sound moved through the crowd. Not fear, not anger, something else, respect. "I did not change because I became like you," she said. "I changed because I accepted who I am." Her voice echoed across the space. "I am not broken." The silence grew deeper. "I am different," she said. "And that is my strength." For a moment, no one moved. Then slowly, one figure stepped forward, then another, not to fight, but to stand closer, to listen, to learn. Arira looked at them, not with fear, not with anger, but with calm strength. High above, small ships recorded everything, sending the message across the galaxy. The child they once rejected was now leading them. Elias watched from the distance, his arms crossed, a quiet pride in his eyes. He did not speak. He did not need to. Era had found her place, not in one world, but in many. She was no longer the girl who stood alone in the rain. She was something more, a symbol, a beginning, a legend. As she stood under the open sky, her wings shining bright, one final truth spread across every star. Humans do not just fight wars, they change destinies. And the girl who had no wings became the one who taught the galaxy how to fly.